All right, man. Let's do it. Brycent, dude, we've talked a little bit off stream, but we've both honestly been so busy that I think we've been playing tag a little bit. There's been a couple of those moments. I was like, bro, we got to connect. And
Yeah.
one of us responds, and then both of us end up getting distracted by our daily lives. And honestly, that's a good thing because it's good busy. It's good chaos. There's so much going on in the Axie world. Every day I wake up and feel like that 8 hours I was asleep, I missed something big, if not multiple big things. So excited to chat with you here, man. Welcome to Axie Tuesdays. Our overlays here slowly upgrading, and now we've got the animated mystics at the bottom. We've got Araya. Is that how you say it? Your mystic, Araya?
Yeah, it's Araya. So
Araya.
people say it a
Got
bunch of different ways,
Okay.
but I just say Araya.
Yeah, well, I'm similar. I'm Soraya, so there you go. I like that ending A. It means mermaid. Does yours have a meaning behind it for your Axie?
So actually, the meaning of the name, there were two separate kind of names that came up. At the time when I was looking to buy Araya, I was talking to R, or he goes by R, but his name's Aurora, and he's an amazing guy, has tons of Axies. And we couldn't strike a deal on one Axie, and I was super sad because I really liked that one. So I had an Axie contest where I was like, hey, I need someone to help name, whatever I'm going to name 714. And the word Aurora came up, and then someone put Soraya, and I was like, fine, I'll just put them together and make Araya.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I like that. So that's just a totally unique name that you came up with, man. That's awesome. See, I did the opposite. I was going for meaning. I was like, all right, Aqua. I'm all about Aquas, aggressive. We got the lamb face, okay. And I started going like down the mermaid route, the water route, like different names in different languages. I think Soraya just means mermaid in Portuguese, if I'm not mistaken. It's my Axie. I should know the history. I've already forgotten. So, it's not that creative, but it was a cute name. And there was also a matching emoji. So that was a big win for me as well. All my favorite Axies, their name starts with an emoji. I don't know why, but I just decided that's my marker for my most special ones.
And you have such a beautiful mystic, like the Candy Babylonia. Look at it just floating there on the screen so majestically. I'm like, if I had any other mystic part, it would be that Candy Babylonia. But at the time, it was budget. I think I had like 5.4 each. So when the deal came up, I was like, I just got to strike now. I don't have time to wait. And yeah, that's how it came about.
Yeah, I felt similar. Like I was a little bit picky about the mystic part. I kind of wanted the aqua part on the aqua, and that was why I liked the Candy Babylonia. I love the Ronin on a non-beast as well because it's like the blue ponytail. I think that's just such a cool aesthetic. But I'm also a big fan of the starry shell. I mean, the shell is like such an iconic Axie like ability in general. Like stuns or. I feel like they make for very memorable gameplay. You remember those games where you're just stuck like that. And man, you've got some color aesthetics on that guy as well. I love the black base with like the white tail, the white highlights. What are the antlers called? I don't know what those horns are.
I think that's like the branch one. I'm not great with knowing the actual part names. I kind of just know the movesets.
Same.
So there we are, being terrible trainers. But I really love that whole black and white with the contrast of the green shell. It kind of it made it pop to the point where I was like, okay, it spoke to me. And then in game, I was like, the parts they're not in the current meta. They're not the best outside of the shell, but they're good enough to where I can kind of throw her into some games and have a good amount of fun with her. So, and then the chat's like yelling at me. It's branch charge. My bad, guys. My bad. Come on. Give me some slack. I'm still working here.
It's a lot of data to process. It's I need to make more time to play. Honestly, that has been we got a real life interjection here. No worries.
Yeah, sorry about that. My grandmother brought me some lunch.
All good.
I got to keep eating, guys. I got to keep eating. I've been having trouble with my eating habits. My grandmother understands that. So, with doing so much, you got to get some healthy stuff in your body. So, big thank you to grandma as well.
Absolutely. You know what they say? If you want to be a winner, you got to fuel like a winner. So there you go. Look at you getting the good stuff in there.
Definitely. Sorry about that.
No worries, dude. Not at all. Absolutely. So anyway. One of the interesting things about our dynamic, though, is I think you and I really started diving in and getting into the Axie universe at a pretty similar time, right? We're both 2021 Axie guys, and not even January, right? More like when did you actually start? Was it March, April? Because I think that's when I first started really dipping my toe in.
So it was actually like April 7th. I think that was the
Okay.
first day I actually streamed Axie.
Okay, there you go. So, yeah, I don't have my spreadsheet open. I don't remember when I bought my very first one, but it was something like that. I guess around Easter time. So it's been interesting, just both as newcomers, to see how we've evaluated the landscape. Obviously, we're working on different sides of the coin. I'm more on the esports creator side, and you are one of our biggest creators. And you've blown up with a number of really wild giveaways. Your engagement is just out of this world. You've been doing, do you call it watch to earn? Is that what you've been doing on your stream? Or I guess like watch to scholarship? You have some sort of a point system. How many scholars are you up to now?
Yeah, so we are up to about 250 scholars.
Whoa.
And yeah, it's been crazy. So initially, I never really saw kind of the Twitch market for me being, oh, we're just going to throw the whole watch to earn tag on there, because I didn't have a scholarship program. It was kind of me at first, just streaming and talking about Axie and having passion, and binary assets, Flowbot, and Big Crypt Brit. They saw something in me and were interested in kind of bringing me on their team to start what is now the Loot Squad. And one issue that we ran into was figuring out a good process for vetting scholars. And I was like, well, it's kind of difficult, to just say, oh, we know this person's going to be good or bad. But I was like, maybe if they spend a certain amount of time in my Twitch stream, kind of watching, learning the game, interacting with me, also learning the social cues of areas outside of the Philippines. Because what a lot of people aren't taking into account was back when I first started playing Axie, and even when I first started scholarshiping, a lot of the Filipino community, they didn't really understand a lot of the American social cues. And on Twitter, it was mostly, people just reaching out and kind of trying to get scholarships as soon as possible. Well, my focus and goal was, how do I turn, this amazing group of people in the Philippines into actual viewers, into watchers, into people that can contribute in ways within the Axie community for more than just asking for scholarships. And now we have, Filipino scholars who are doing their own giveaways and creating their own teams and creating art and creating all of these beautiful creative works within the space. And they've really helped steamroll and not only build my community, but build the community of other creators. So initially, yes, my stream, wasn't watch to earn. It became watch to earn as a vetting process for scholars and building kind of the social infrastructure of Axie Infinity. But I really don't think it matters too much that it's watch to earn. A lot of the people in my stream watch because I'm a very entertaining guy. I rap on stream.
Yeah.
I do Filipino karaoke. I play games. I play pretty much anything or do anything within the realm of possibility. And we've really been able to build out a wonderful community based on the culture that we're breeding within Loot Squad. And it's the same culture now that is taking off within other scholarship programs.
Gotcha. Wow. That's pretty cool. And at face value, I wondered if watch to earn would be an effective tool to actually vet people, because my brain immediately goes, we have to deal with so much abuse. Every system we build on like the Sky Mavis Axie Infinity side, we have to think about, how are people going to try to break this? So I immediately think like bots, or people just racking up like Twitch points but not really engaging, or people like, how do you know that somebody who watches the stream isn't also somebody who's gonna like take your Axies and multi-account, or do something else that's like kind of unethical? I guess is it sort of like watch to get your resume at the top of the stack, and then there's more vetting beyond just like stream hours, right?
Well, honestly, no. So the way it kind of works is, we kind of go just on an honor system of, if I think that if you do good and you provide, a kind nature and show support to the community, then, that type of energy will come back to you. Anyone who sits in my stream enough to earn, 20,000 scholarship points, and in my opinion, is someone who is, legitimate, someone who's verified, someone who's justified.
What does that translate to? Like how many hours or whatever is that?
Honestly, I think it's like, I normally stream 4 times a week. So they're looking at maybe 2 weeks of streams or something. I have no clue on the actual hours behind it. Maybe it's less because we do raids and all these other things that allow people to get their points quicker.
Okay.
But it's really proven to be a good system. We haven't had any issues with multi-accounting, haven't had any issues with people getting banned from the system. So we're happy with what we're building this way.
Wow, that's impressive, and I'm glad to hear that. It's funny because I still engage with various people from the Dota community and like the esports world, just completely outside of Axie, and even really like blockchain gaming. And one of them had commented on one of my tweets and related I think I was asking about somebody making me a dress for NFT NYC. And she was like, uh-oh, you said the no word to trigger all the bots. And I was just like, what, you mean the word Axie? And I responded to her like, they're not bots, dude. They're real people that don't really know how to use Twitter that really, really want scholarship so they can play Axie. But I know they kind of look like bots, but they're not. It's real people copy and pasting their real resumes. It was an eye-opening experience to realize how much of a gap there is even on that basic of a level, where some people see that amazing energy and just write it off as, oh, that's just some bot script spam. And the reality is that is kind of like as real as it gets. You know, you should see my DMs. They're a lot more personal and real than that kind of spam you see on Twitter. But it's the same accounts. That's how I know that they're real people.
No, you're totally right. And that's where, you know, the whole idea was, how do I show these people that not only is Axie a place where you can make money, but you can build friendships, you can build community, you can build culture, you can share experiences with other people. My first ever scholar, he reached out to me the first time, and his whole ideology was, hey, I need a scholarship. And he was the first person that gave me a chance. And, you know, now watching him blossom and become someone who's not only giving out, you know, opportunities to other people and contributing to the space and helping other people learn how to play Axie and buying, you know, different NFTs. I've seen scholars within this community do amazing things, and they're not bots. They're humans just like you and I. They put their pants on every single day like you and I. And at the end of the day, I want to keep showing the entire, not only Axie community, but the NFT community, that these people are people of worth. These people are people of value, and they have creative talents that go beyond some of our wildest dreams. And I think that's what's kind of really led to my growth within Axie Infinity and also the Loot Squad.
Yeah. You know, what you're talking about really reminds me of what Psychout said in, is it ETHCC? I think the conference he was speaking at earlier today or yesterday. And he said, we have so many new players now that some of the estimates are like 40, 50% are people that are coming into Axie that are completely new to crypto and don't really, you know, they're just learning the concept of seed phrases and security and all this stuff as a mechanism to play the game. So already on like an NFT, just blockchain DeFi type level, we're onboarding so many people into the ecosystem. It's more than a game. It's opening up this whole new world. And when we talk about plugging people into the global economy, I think this is like preliminary data, and it's coming from memory, so I might be wrong. Don't quote me hard on this number, but I think like 20% or so of our users have never had a bank account, something like that. Let's say 10 to 20% would be like a figure that is in the realm of reason of, if you're playing Axie Infinity, especially if you're a scholar, you might not have a bank account. You've never had one in your entire life. You might not be able to have access to one. So this kind of new world of finance that is bankless, so to speak, but still allows you to realize financial value from your activity. This is big stuff. I know we talk about it all the time, but we're going to keep talking about it until this is mainstream knowledge, because it's changing lives, man. The bankless need to be banked.
Yeah. And my question for you would be, how often did you kind of navigate this kind of decentralized finance infrastructure? I know for me, when I first started Axie, I was one of those people in the bubble. I was, you know, someone who hadn't owned a MetaMask account. I didn't know what a seed phrase was, excuse me. And then a couple of weeks later, I look up and I'm swapping, you know, ETH to AXS on Uniswap and figuring out all these crazy numbers around breeding SLP. And I'm like, dude, you learn so much financial knowledge about crypto just from playing Axie Infinity. We're like so lucky to be in an ecosystem where inherently you just learn by doing. Like it's so second nature.
I mean, I've been telling a lot of my friends and colleagues that are really skeptical about all the DeFi stuff, or they don't trust any of the numbers. I say, you don't have to put a lot of money into it. Put in $100. The recurring viewers on this stream are probably tired of hearing me say that. Put in $100, go into a bunch of different protocols and play around. If you're really scared of the security, then put in an amount of money that you'd be willing to gamble on something else, or the amount of money that you'd spend buying drinks at the bar next weekend. Because that $100 $100 will be a great investment in terms of a learning mechanism. Because a lot of these tools, it's really hard to understand until you just start using them. Like you need to read and do a little research and have some basic understanding, but there's a limit to how far you can get until you really just start interacting yourself. And then you start to see these areas where connect the dots in a way that's really hard just from book learning. I've been in and out of crypto. I've told this story before, but like in 2018, I worked on developing a game on the Ethereum mainnet called Crypto Geodes, and there was another one called Ether Dilemma. It was like a prisoner's dilemma simulation. They were cool little experiments, but it was just super early days, really, really hard to program in Solidity, and we all just kind of got tired of it and went back to doing stuff in Dota. So I had a little bit of crypto holdings, and I was aware of the technology at the time, but then stopped paying attention. I kind of missed DeFi summer. I have a Litecoin miner running in my upstairs bedroom. Never thought that thing would be so profitable, but it merged mines with Dogecoin, so it actually has been pretty profitable for the last 5 or 6 months. So I've done some hobbyist stuff in the crypto space. This was my first time really diving in, and just as sometimes the stars align, earlier this year in January, one of the things, this is before I even knew about Sky Mavis, maybe even before they announced it. I was trying to figure out my plan as a content creator for the year. And one of the things I wanted to launch was this Zyori podcast network type thing, because I had already been doing 2, and then I wanted to add a 3rd one for my South American Dota gig. And then I thought about adding a 4th one where I had done a really crappy crypto show in the past, kind of wanted to revive it. And I found a co-host who had no real broadcast experience, but he's like he's a full stack programmer. He's really, really into the DeFi crypto space. And he was just hungry to make really good content. So he ended up being a really great show host. And he's the one that really educated me on everything that I'd missed from like 2019 to present. That I learn from these kind of exchanges, when I get to talk to somebody and have like a one-on-one discussion, I retain that kind of information, and I like being able to ask real questions in real time. It's called The New Blocks is the name of our podcast. It's on the same YouTube channel. You'll find this video. And it's designed to be like, he got tired of having the same conversation over and over. So the idea is let's record a step-by-step dive down the rabbit hole of crypto. Like I think the very first episode is called Cryptocurrency, and the second one is Blockchain. It's really meant to be these specific subjects, and then you learn each of them per episodes. Then by episode 10 or whatever, you start to put it all together. We just did episode 15 that was called DeFi. So it took us 15 episodes to get to that. Like, okay, so all this stuff together is kind of decentralized finance. And then the goal is once maybe another 5 episodes, we'll start doing just like a regular kind of podcast, like what's going on in the world, kind of newsy, sort of, less educational, more contemporary. But that was what really helped me feel confident, and like he guided me in doing my first, like Uniswap transaction, and my first time doing like liquidity mining, and even like I didn't even realize how valuable it was going to be the first time I used Polygon as like a side chain, sort of like layer 2 type concept, because there are certainly some parallels to Ronin. Like all these things are clones of Ethereum, right? So it's all useful information to have in your stack. And I remember in one of my early meetings with the guys, I was like, hey, I finally figured out this staking thing, guys. This is really cool. I'm getting like 50% returns. And they were like, yeah, that's cool, man. Welcome to the last 2 years. But it's still, it's useful info for like, we're going to have a DEX pretty soon, right? So doing that research and understanding how it works is just really valuable to have. So anyway, sorry, that was a lot of words to say. Podcasting is how I learned a lot about crypto, and then Axie was my real application to finally start doing it like a lot more.
No, I mean, that was like the perfect amount of stuff, because I still feel like I know like absolutely nothing compared to people who are well-versed and traverse this space. But I'm definitely learning more every day. So it's super cool to hear about your story and like kind of hear the culmination of things that led up to Sky Mavis Zyori, who is now the esports and content creator lead.
Do you do any like liquidity stuff? Like, are you staking anything on like Sushi or QuickSwap or Uniswap or anything like that?
That's one thing I have not done. I've been
No,
hearing.
okay.
So when I spoke with Karush AK last week, he was like, "Yeah, you need to learn about all of these other things." And I'm like, "Oh man, I am still just trying to figure out this NFT space." But
Yeah.
yeah, let me get back to you on that.
Well, but you're doing cool stuff with NFTs, right? So like I guess Bored Apes really set the stage for this like power of a pay for community with some scarcity. You know what? There's 10,000 unique apes, right? And I think
Mhm.
that's a really cool, simplistic way to create a community that is. You need to have, as you've seen, you know, if they watch enough of my stream, that means that they're kind of engaged. You need some sort of a mechanism for people to join the community. You know, as we've
Yeah.
seen with the Axie server, it's great we've got so many people, but 500,000 people on Discord is really, really hard to manage. It's hard to engage with one another, you know? So I think there's some merit to having smaller communities that are more manageable where you can really engage with each other and remember each other's faces, let's say. And you've been doing that now. Tell me about your NFT stuff, because you've got some like they're collectible, but they're also part of like access to your community, I guess. Are they, am I confusing your project with something else?
No, you have it
Almost
somewhat
right.
like you have it almost right. Like everything you said was correct, but it's just like the amount of layers that I'm trying to kind of like throw on top of it go a little bit further. So ideally, when I first got into the NFT space, Axie Infinity for me was extremely lucky because I had heard about like NBA Top Shot and where you can buy a clip, and I'm like, the first thing I'm thinking is, why would I buy like a clip of LeBron James dunking a basketball? Is it going to give me like a ticket to the game, or like am I going to get to meet LeBron? And like when I realized there was nothing there, I'm like, dude, I'm not spending any time or energy into this. But ideally, my thought was, okay, now that I've kind of built up something, built up a team and a family within this Axie community, I wanted to give top people in the space, whether it's crypto or NFT gaming or just Axie, I wanted to give them a chance to not only have access to me, the community, and kind of what I'm building from like an informational standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
but allow them to pretty much earn profit share based on how far, how wide, and how expansive my actual brand goes. So I came up with the Brycent Founders NFT concept because I was tired of seeing a bunch of these NFTs that kind of lacked utility. I was like, okay, like it's cool to buy an art piece, but it's like, if that art piece is just, an art piece, kind of, you get to the point in the NFT space where I'm like, okay, we're just hoping the equity of the art goes up. So why not incorporate scarcity? Well done, very talented hand-drawn art. On top of that, load it with a bunch of utility and build an NFT that has some backing enough to, potentially help people or pretty much build its own yield farm. So just to give you like a kind of a concept, any amount of money that I earn from branding deals, any money that's earned, on Twitch or YouTube, a portion of that profit share is going directly back to the 15 holders of my NFT. Now, where this is very
Whoa.
interesting, on top of that is I'm only releasing one NFT every 3 months or one every quarter. So the entire set of 15 holders won't even release until I get to probably 2023, I'm guessing, because, for next year, for the year after,
Mm-hmm.
until we reach 15. But every single time, the idea is by then my brand will have been, further expansive, and every person that's investing in one of these tokens has so much utility that's coming back. The idea is to get it to where they're earning $50,000 a year just for holding the NFT outside of the actual value of the NFT.
You're blowing my mind right now, man. I feel like so I I've got so many thoughts right now. I got to stop and like calibrate. That is,
Yeah.
you got my wheels spinning, dude. So as a content creator, I've perpetually been trying to think about how to create NFTs that are meaningful. Like ever since the ICO boom, I've been thinking in the back of my mind, like, okay, Zyori coin, what does it do? All right, Dream
Yeah.
World. If we can make this thing, and I've never had a good answer to that question. Every single time, it's either just replacing a payment processor, or it's just some sort of weird centralized, like, hey, we've like that. I don't know if you've ever seen. I think it's the Alex token, where you get to like the token lets you vote on things in his life of like, hey, should I have Captain Crunch or
Oh, wow.
cinnamon toast crunch for breakfast or something? And it's like
Yeah.
that's sort of cool, but you also don't need a crypto for that. I could just make a Zyori app where you could buy votes or something, and then
Yeah.
that, like, it's not decentralized; it's all centralized around me. So, but this is actually a really cool. I agree with you generally speaking about these just purely collectible NFTs. I think this idea of trying to put utility to behind them. I mean, all of us, right? We see the value in Axie, so it starts to, trickle into the rest of our ideas, and that makes perfect sense. But that is really cool. That is like wildly generous, but at the same time, man, you keep like with all of these ideas that you have, because you've had others that I wish I had written down, but you're so generous with your giveaways. Like, you did a land giveaway and all this kind of stuff that it seems so crazy, but you go so big that you consistently like break the system in a way that I kind of go, wow, imagine 15 people making $50,000 a year for owning an NFT.
Yeah.
But it's like, that is like the ultra fan. It's like the Omega. It's like the Giga VIP ticket. So, but when you sell these NFTs, that just goes to you, right? So, like the Founder's NFT.
Well,
does that
so
go in your pocket?
the first one did go into my pocket. It sold for 25 grand, which I didn't have any promo behind it outside of one tweet. But I'm looking at options where also a portion of future sales would go right back into that DAO.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some other things that I kind of built in. Like, a lot of people don't know, but owning one of these NFTs is going to get you into my founder's Discord. And in that Discord, there are going to be I'm hoping to get it filled with other influencers or people in the space like you and Jiho. And I'm talking to, venture capitalists that are outside of Axie, just really big thought thinkers or people who have kind of leverage and influence in the space. And ideally, I'm also going to be having pretty much a quarterly NFT that allows people access to this Discord, and revenue from that NFT would go directly back into the founder's NFT DAO. So when I tell you I have a ton of ideas in terms of how much I can layer on top of this and how far I can take it, the idea is to make it to where anyone holding this NFT, outside of the actual value of the NFT or whatever they spent on it, they are going to get enough in value, whether it's from the Discord, meeting people, being a part of this social community, the $50,000 a year, my brand growing, that they never want to sell it. So the price of it will, eventually reach a justifiable point where it's like, oh my God, it's a no-brainer to hold this coin. And I mean, at this point, Zyori, it's like, there's so much that I haven't really kind of disclosed. Like, for example, each NFT has its own special perk. Arctic44, who's an Axie, he's a bit of an Axie whale. He bought the first one. So his special perk for buying the first NFT is the architect perk, which means he is directly involved with helping me build out and scale this entire system. I don't make any one decision by myself. It is Arctic. Eventually, when the next one is sold, the next person will have their own perk. Maybe it's handling the distribution of that profit sharing fund. But every individual of the 15 NFTs has its own perk. And it'll be a situation where I don't have autonomous value to just say, oh, we're going to go in this direction, or this is where I'm taking my brand. There's voting, staking. There's so much more involved with this that, it's going to be the first branded after an influencer that allows people to truly make decisions and be a part of the collective growth of that influencer. So if you can think of like things holistically in terms of influence, voting rights, profit sharing, staking, access to a very, kind of higher level community that you wouldn't previously have access to. That's kind of what I'm going for the 15, and then the people who buy into the actual private Discord.
That's a brilliant idea, dude. You're gonna make it. I'm sure you hear that regularly, but wow, yeah. Arctic, he's a beast, dude. 12 ETH. That's the very tip of the iceberg right there. I don't know if there's a better person for the architect perk. That's also very perfect. Man, my head's spinning with ideas. I've had an idea for a little. We need to connect after this off air. Something I'm not ready to talk about publicly, but I've had an idea that I've been fishing around. I need a Solidity dev. I think I've got the rest of the team rounded out, but I need somebody to write a little bit of code. It's not really Axie related, but it's one of those things that is scalable in a way that could be in the long term. Mysterious. But it's got some parallels to what you're talking about, but also you're talking about some completely different ideas that I hadn't even thought of. And man, it just makes me want to break out the whiteboard and start jotting stuff down. That's
We can do that. We can pull out the whiteboard. Matter of fact, don't tell me that. I will go over there right now and show you my whiteboard. I will bring it to you, Zyori. Don't tempt me. Matter of fact, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
All right, let's see it. Wow, man, that's incredible. I love the time element.
I'm bringing out the whiteboard.
There it is. Oh my gosh, dude, I have like that exact same whiteboard upstairs.
I will bring out the whole whiteboard and we can whiteboard all day, Zyori. I got Axie ideas all on the whiteboard. Matter of fact, I'm going to zoom out. So it is not just me, but I am always talking about Axie and NFTs and ideas. And I know this is kind of crazy, but I will bring out the whiteboard for you, Zyori. And anytime you want to chat, dude, we can hop on it and I got you covered.
Oh shit. All right, dude. I think I need to schedule a weekly the weekly brainstorm with Bryce. My gosh. Wow.
All right. Back in action.
Dude, no, that I totally. I think that same whiteboard, except it's upstairs instead of down in my background here. It doesn't get used as much as it should these days. And I'm getting some FOMO here. I was saying when you had your headphones off, like I love the time element. In this idea that I have, it's NFT related, I think, obviously. There's also a time element. And as I was scoping things out, I think that's a really key aspect that we've also learned from the Axie community. That like time really is the ultimate resource that still can't be replicated, right? It's easy to copy and paste some exchange code. It's easy to copy paste and make a new token, but you really can't copy paste time and building a community, organically, over however long it takes. But man, I'm just so impressed at how quickly you've been able to build this amazing community, how much you appreciate them, how much they appreciate you. Like I've seen a lot of influencers with bigger and smaller communities that, I mean, there seems like there's a level of connection. I guess genuine is a word that comes to mind, but it seems like you genuinely care about them and they genuinely care about you in a way most influencers don't really connect with their fans. And I loved what you said. I think you tweeted earlier, don't call me an Axie influencer, call me an Axie humanitarian. And I think that's kind of definitely the vibe that I get from even just reading Twitch chat here, and hearing you talk about, how dedicated you are to this group. And it's awesome to hear that you're joining that. That's full time, 1 week away, and this is you, man. There you go, living the dream.
It's definitely been crazy. A couple months ago, back when I first got started, I didn't think it'd be possible to do it full time. But no, I genuinely care and love about everybody. It doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Asian, Filipino, Brazil, South America, Central America. Like I'm so thankful for everyone in my community. I've had scholars who they've gone through tragic accidents and, they'll never ask me for anything, but I've sent scholars, just money outside of just scholarship, just because I'm like, hey, bro, you are a part of my family. If you're not fine, I'm not fine. You tell me something's going on. If there's any way that I can help, I'm going to help. And that's kind of been my motto from day one. It's not about building or seeing how much money or influence the Loot Squad can get, because I don't give a damn about the influence. Like I care about really just truly seeing a place where we can empower people who are from developing countries to reach their truest potential. We have scholars who want to be astronauts. Okay, what can I do to help you get into astronaut school? Hell, I even have a crazy LinkedIn, resume with a bunch of people who, I used to consult, different groups at the NASA or NASA soup kind of contract in the government. So is there anything I can do to help? I'm going to help. And it's just been magical, Zyori. And looking at which you've done since you've come into the community, helping bring a different dynamic, dude, you are fucking killing it, like completely.
Well, thanks, man. I feel the feeling's mutual. I feel likewise about yourself. And every time, I took the weekend off and I came back and was like, man, you guys are really putting the time in. I needed a few days out in nature just to reset a little bit while the servers were having some issues. Of course, my inbox was fuller than usual. So sometimes you got to flag yourself and just go, you know what, guys, I'm going to go walk around for 2 days and then come back and get back to work. But I appreciate the amount of time, effort, and hours that you've been putting into this stuff. Your Twitter is, I was scrolling back trying to find one of your tweets from 3 days ago, and my finger got tired scrolling. That's a compliment, though, of just how much work you've been putting in the Axie Twitter space, dude. I can't believe it. Oh, and we got an Ishies raid here. Wow, 1,200.
Oh, wow.
Someone else who's been slaying it in the Axie space. Ishies, man.
Yeah, he's amazing. He was one of my inspirations when I got into the space. I saw what he was doing as well with kind of his scholarship program and how much he was giving away. Him, Khan, they were two really big inspirations for me in kind of building out what I was doing. So Ishies, thank you so much for rating Zyori's amazing Axie Tuesdays, which has now become Wednesday.
Yeah, Axie Tuesday, Axie Wednesday. I had something bad I'm still recovering. I think I had a little food poisoning on Monday. I don't know if I undercooked my chicken or what happened, but I didn't eat for a day straight, and I'm still a little, I slept okay last night, but it was good we didn't podcast yesterday. I was really not in a great place. Physically, but you know how it goes. You recover quick. Anyway, it's to go back to the influencer thing. It's just so refreshing, man. I always hesitate to bring this up because I don't want to sound negative about my colleagues in the Dota 2 space or even just other aspects of traditional gaming. But it's just so different here because in the traditional gaming space, this is something else that Psych Out talked about in his presentation from earlier this morning. Traditional developers are always incentivized to min-max the players of their game financially. Like, that is the ultimate goal. We're creating this ecosystem, and that ecosystem is trying to suck money out of you so that we can maximize our income. And in a lot of situations, the games are really, really good. Like, I think Dota in particular has a really great model. The game is free. There's no paywall to access any of the heroes or champions, whatever you want to call them. And the only stuff that you can buy really is just cosmetic. That's really cool because it allows it to be a competitive game, and there's still ways for you to spend money. And, we've seen the power of cosmetics. People want to look cool. People want to collect stuff. It's almost got a little bit of an NFT vibe. You open some loot crates, you maybe get a rare dice roll. You could sell that golden version on the marketplace. Then you could buy a bunch of other cosmetics that have now depreciated in value, whatever else. But still, at the end of the day, the goal isn't really to enable your players to make money. The goal is to take money from your players. I think Dota is on the good side, but you look at some of these like those auto battler MMO RPG mobile games, I don't really get these games. It feels like they're just designed to be hard to play so that you have to buy power-ups or whatever so that they're kind of playable. So then they're free to play, but they sort of feel like free to play in a very disingenuous, it's just a money pit. And I think I might have said this with Dave on the last Tuesday, but I'm curious to hear your thought. Like, people have countered that by saying, well, it's just people buy entertainment, Zyori. Why do you care about how they, what they pay for what kind of entertainment? But I think when you say that, it's like a false equivalency because a lot of entertainment, like think about a movie, or you go to the movie theater, it might cost $20 or the popcorn might be egregiously expensive, but the movie doesn't have a pop-up asking you to pay more money. At the end of the movie, it doesn't say, hey, do you want to pay $5 more and watch the alternate ending? Maybe in the future it will, and maybe that's cool, right? That's an add-on, so maybe that's a value add. But what if you had to keep putting quarters in as you're sitting there, Oh
my God.
What if the movie was designed to be bad unless you pay for the upgraded version of the movie that's better? We'd all go, oh, well, that's just a money pit. Exactly. That's what some of these mobile games are. So it's amazing to see that Axie is this ecosystem that really is about enabling player-to-player transactions. So like as a developer, my goal, my target as the esports department isn't how do we maximize the income from our players. It's how do we enable our players to do cool shit and kind of monetize each other and make money within the ecosystem. And that's like a really powerful concept that based on this conversation, it seems like that's trickling into our influencers and just our community at large. You know, it's all about enabling other people and kind of building out that pyramid even more. And yeah, I don't know where this rabbit hole started here, but it's just great, you know. And on the influencer side, it's really cool to see that kind of connection. And also know that it's driven economically by SLP, right? That's one big difference we have here. We got another raid.
Oh, wow.
Is that like
Scrappy Coco?
I think so.
Shout out to Scrappy if that was a Scrappy
Coco.
Yeah,
that's Scrappy Coco. Yeah, thank you.
He's definitely amazing. Another one to watch in this space.
Yeah. But it's just so cool that our whole community is the foundation is about enabling other people. And I don't think there's a lot of other like at a high systemic level, there aren't very many other games or like capitalistic systems where you can really honestly say that that's the goal of the system at large, you know? And that's just so cool. I love it. It makes me feel like I'm not wasting my time. You know, it makes me feel like I'm actually building stuff that matters and is important and isn't just like a marketing distraction or another shill for a betting sponsor. Like it's so cool that our future teams will be able to monetize through scholarships and whatnot. Like you guys, you don't need sponsors for Loot Squad to succeed. That's amazingly powerful because if you need sponsors for your business to succeed, like in the Moonduck times where I was doing stuff in Dota, it was literally, here's an idea. Okay, do we have a sponsor? Without that sponsor, there's no money to jumpstart the tournament. When you're in that situation, the sponsors have all the leverage. Like sponsorship becomes censorship at a certain point when you're completely all in on like, okay, if they pull out, this doesn't happen anymore. That changes your compass a little bit compared to this ecosystem that we have that gives you guys the power. And if you want to find some amazing sponsors that add in value, great. But you don't have to settle for crappy sponsors that you don't want to shill for. That's also amazingly powerful.
No, you're definitely right. And the funny thing is, I was talking to Binary and Flowbot, I think it was yesterday. They're my two partners alongside Big Crib Brit for Loot Squad. And we were talking about that. And I said, guys, my background is traditional gaming. I'm from the realms of Call of Duty, where you had the optics, the Team Calibers, the FaZe, the Team Envious, and it's like for smaller organizations coming into those spaces, you had to spend. You're going into the negative 5, 7, maybe even 10 years, and hoping that you hit it big, where you get one or two big content creators that could be a Nade Shot or a Scump that can bring in and garner enough interest to where you get sponsorships. And if you don't, you're pretty much stuck in this recurring cycle of you're just dumping money into something that doesn't grow. Whereas in Axie Infinity, you can become profitable from day one, week one, and look up. And now, some of the things I'm, really pushing for Loot Squad is how do we break the barrier of traditional gaming, and how do, myself as a content creator, how do I bring Axie Infinity to an Americanized audience? I recently signed a media deal or a marketing deal with an agency that's been hanging around and doing some pretty cool things in the Axie space. And we really are looking to, brand and bring more Americanized money and a more Americanized interest into the Axie space, because Americans, we spend so much money on things that don't matter. Like I remember spending like $700 in Valorant skins that I can't sell because guess what? They're not an NFT. I'd have to like do some weird stuff or CSGO. And it's like, imagine this type of money coming into Axie just for entertainment value. You're talking about billions upon billions of dollars in market cap that would grow not only Axie Infinity, but would be put back into the pockets of people who are, grinding every day as scholars and eventually want to start their own scholar programs, the everyday influencer. Like these are the things that I think like we're doing such a great job kind of leading towards. And like now it's like, let's push it in overdrive and really get America and all of these other nations that spend money on, a lot of pointless stuff to spend money on something with a good cause, something with a good business model, something with a good growth model for everyone. And that's Axie Infinity.
I mean, at a larger level, I think you could even say it's utility NFTs. I think when a lot of my job is politely arguing with fudders. And a lot of it is not publicly on Twitter, but it's, I'm sort of, I don't know the right word here, but anyone that's interested, right, within my esports or traditional gaming network, I'm willing, hey, I'll take an hour and anything you want to know about Axie Infinity. What I've been doing, Bryce, is instead of scholarships, the way you guys have done it, I've been breeding out these Axie teams so that if I find like a Dota influencer, like a Dota pro player that wants to get in but is afraid to spend $1,000, I'll give them that account as a scholar. If they play on it, I'll take like, I don't know, 10% of the SLP or something. And then basically if they think it's cool, I'll sell them that team of Axies at a discounted price than what they would be on the market.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it's like people that I know have the money to buy it. It's more about like the risk analysis, and they don't want to, they have this feeling of, I don't want to go all in on something until I know it's actually worth playing. So, it's important that if there are other, influencers out there, even pro gamers or like Dota analysts that, are looking at this, and at first maybe they thought, hey, is Zyori just shilling? Did he, is he getting paid to sell out or whatever? And then as they see more of it, they start to realize like, oh, this is actually pretty legit. Like, it seems like there's a lot of cool stuff here, and there's a lot of people talking about this. So I've been getting more and more of that inbound, and slowly handing out those accounts. And what were we talking about before this though? The fudders. I had something else to bring up about FUD arguments, and I totally spaced on it.
Before that, I know we had kind of, we had slid through the whole influencer, rabbit hole, and then jumped into, I guess we could just jump into the fear of doom guys who are, I see them now. They're actually jumping into a lot of my tweets, and it takes a lot for me to not want to respond, because I love responding and interacting with everyone. But I'm like, dude, sometimes it's just not an argument you want to pick up.
Yeah. Oh, no. So, the utility NFTs, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So one of the key things that I think breaks through to people when they're at least receptive, right? When people aren't willing to listen, it's really hard. But when they at least come to me and go, hey, can you explain the value proposition? Like, why does everybody care about Axie? Why isn't this just another shitty mobile game? If they're at that point, then you can start working on them a little bit. Then you get access to the actual brain points. And what I tell people is that, you're right. Like, pure collectibles are kind of stupid, be it NFT or not. Like, I'm not going to try to convince you Beanie Babies have value. The value is not intrinsic. The value is just in the fact that they're collectible and like the speculation of the future. But they don't do anything. You're right. They're kind of stupid. If you don't value art, then art collectible NFTs are stupid to you. That's fine. But once you start explaining utility NFTs, and I go, what if you had like art that could do something, right? That art was a key that gave you access to something, or that art could yield farm or generate some sort of a return, or be an asset in a game that gives you some sort of a power up in the game. And if you're talking to a gamer, they understand that right away, and you can see the wheels turn in a little bit, and they go, oh, like I could buy a boost, but then the boost is an asset, and I could sell that boost back to somebody else. It's like, yeah, exactly. There you go. Digital ownership in the gaming space. This is pretty cool, huh? And then that example you brought up about the Valorant skins, that works for most gamers. So they go, oh, yeah, you're right. How many games have I played that I thought were going to be the future? I spend $50 on cosmetics or dumb power-ups or whatever. Oh, I get to level twice as fast in Firefall. I definitely spent $10 on that. I probably spent 5 hours playing Firefall total, but I'll tell you what, man, I was leveling fast as hell through those 5 hours. As gamers, we've all done that. We've all blundered on like pre-orders, or, gotten got by something that, we've all played Candy Crush and been there, and you're like, oh, God, I just want to, So anyway, I think the utility aspect is what will really resonate with people. And the more we get away from these purely collectible NFTs, and there's more mainstream news coverage about utility NFTs, I think more people will be won over. To me, in my FUD arguments, that's been one of my biggest, what's the way to say it? Highest percentage chance of winning somebody over is really selling them on the utility concept and meeting them halfway by like admitting that collectibles are stupid. That's like, I've found that works really. Even if you think collectibles are cool, if you're just willing to say collectibles are stupid, then they don't see you as an NFT shill, and that gives you access to actually insert something important like utility is the mecca.
No, you're definitely right. It's like just feeding onto someone's senses, like half the time convincing someone to kind of do what you want in that space is like, hey, you're right, you do have a point, but also let's kind of talk about this and see what you think about this, and kind of giving them the logic behind it. I know in my personal life and the people around me, dude, months ago, I would tweet about Axie, when I first got into it, dude. I was getting messages like, "Oh, dude, I'm gonna, yeah, and these are from like friends. Yeah, I'm gonna mute you because yeah, dude, you're just talking about these weird Pokemon creatures a little bit too much, and all this stuff." I'm like, okay, do what do whatever you feel. But I was like, at the end of the day, it's going to do something crazy, and you're going to be coming back. And now these are the same friends that are like, "Oh, so yeah, about that Axie game, how do you get into it? I heard you, did 1 million in unrealized gains, and you're getting really big." And I'm like, yeah, well, now I don't have 30 hours to talk to you and tell you about it, but there's amazing, cool creators in the space like Elijah CTG, myself, Dave versus Axie, even all the way to like, think about how big this community is. We have like people who are organizing events. We have, like the Air 22 people. Like, there's so much infrastructure that's being built in different locations around Axie Infinity. Even if it takes another year and a half before every mainstream news cycle or audience speaks about the game, we've built such a groundwork and a framework for growth that it's going to do numbers that are beyond the wildest dreams of the Fear of Doom people, even us as like Axie Maxies. Like, we don't know where the game is going, but I'm willing to bet my hat and bet, everything I have, not only in the game, but outside of the game, that Axie is going to be something that is around for a long time, and it's going to change millions upon millions of lives. And dude, I'm just happy to be a part of it. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I definitely see myself as long, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I can't believe how fast land is appreciated already, even since I got in. I recognize the name Urine42 in chat here and said, my concern is that if the prices keep going up, it's like this chicken and the egg thing of, it's great if you're in already, but then the entry point gets so high, it kind of gets impossible for people to enter. And I think there's some truth to that. I hope my OBS didn't crash. My Twitch chat froze, but the rest of it seems to be working. So,
you know what I thought was interesting? The concept of like scholarshiping is, in a sense, we're building pretty much franchises or businesses within the Axie ecosystem. If, I keep telling people, at the current rate where we have 400,000 daily active users and a game like Fortnite has 100 million, the prices, in a sense, they could just keep going up, as the game continues to scale. But if we get to the point where there's 5-10 million people, it's not going to be, it's not going to be possible for someone just coming into the game to start a scholarship unless you have 50, 100K. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, think about when the first McDonald's was created. Of course, it was probably super cheap to start a franchise in McDonald's at that time. And now it's like, you're paying $1 million something bucks. It's kind of like the cost of scaling, the cost of being involved with something after there is some type of groundwork attraction. I'm sure the New England Patriots wouldn't have been able to get Tom Brady in the 7th round if the entire NFL knew that Tom Brady would go on to be like a 7-time NFL Super Bowl champion. I think the same kind of rule applies with Axie Infinity.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the magic number is. People like to ask me these really specific questions. Like, what do you think the floor for Axie should be? It's like, that's way above my pay grade, man. I have no clue. I hear you when you say the floor is getting higher, and like, I think the potential for concern there is very real, right? Like, the economy is very delicate, and that's why I have so much faith in Trung and the crew of understanding, like, we can't make very quick, like, snap decisions, and little ripple effects now can have long-term effects for the economy at large. It's a really complicated thing to navigate that we have to do slowly and strategically. So we'll have these moments where things will be undervalued, things will be overvalued. The goal is to kind of oscillate back and forth and try to hold pretty steady around this sweet spot. But it's always going to ebb and flow, right? Imagine that first time, like a year from now, when we have land out, when we have version 2 out, when we have free to play out, like maybe Axie is in some official app stores or something like that. Who knows, right? Maybe that could be possible. But let's say there becomes like Paris Hilton. She's into NFTs. Maybe she finally goes all in on Axie, and we do some kind of crossover there, right? That's just a name that comes to mind of someone who has been in the NFT space, right? Yeah. That's a huge amount of reach. That's a crazy amount of followers. That could cause a temporary surge where, that floor price of Axies might jump. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's neither. It's just part of a growing economy, and we have to watch it and calibrate it as it goes. But I don't think we want the floor price to endlessly go up forever. I think you want Axies to be more accessible and then have value generated in other mechanisms through the ecosystem. That would be
Yeah.
my kind of broad stroke answer to that. But again, I'm the esports guy. I'm not the game design guy. So
Yeah. I would say like we can't accurately predict the floor. The one thing that I just kind of always look at as like a metric of where the floor is going to be. Right now, of course, things might be down a bit because, server outages, but those are going to be fixed in a couple of weeks. Like if you're into video games, server issues is just a part of scaling. Like every time a new Call of Duty game releases, everyone has trouble getting into the servers. No one talks about it because guess what? You're just spending money on the game. You're not actually making money from playing the game. But because there's this ecosystem where we have such an amazing game that you can actually earn SLP that you can exchange for dollars or ETH, it's an issue because people are like, oh, I'm not losing money that, while I'm not playing, but I'm also not making any. So it's like we've kind of put people in a situation where everyone is spoiled by the fact that they earn money every single day from playing the game, that we forget that in traditional games, at this scale and at this level, jumping up this surge amount of players, there are tons of moments where there are server outages. This is kind of, in my opinion, normal to the growth of a game and an ecosystem. And Sky Mavis is evolving every single day, and they're going to get better as they continue to learn from these issues and develop new systems to fix them.
Well, yeah, and it's also, when you build this kind of stuff as a startup, you have to be really conscious about costs. So when you look at designing a system, there's sort of tiers of scalability. You don't build out the enterprise solution necessarily right away. You start with like an MVP, right? A minimum viable product. Okay, we've gotten some adoption. Let's build it up to that next level. Each level is more expensive than the last and a little bit more involved and harder to build than the last one. So you build out this roadmap of, okay, let's model out some, this is insane growth. This would be, okay, pretty expected growth. This would be disappointing growth. This would be, we're in like danger zone. Maybe we need to pull the plug here, right? So you have all these kind of different scenarios. You plot your growth along the way, and then you keep that stacked accordingly with these different checkpoints of how you're building out your code, right? This MVP to enterprise level scale with everything in between. There truly is not a word in the English language for how far ahead of our wildest predictions we are right now. I think the original number was Jiho wanted to hit 250K daily active users by the end of 2021. We are coming up on August, and we are at what, 500K, something like that, 450, somewhere in there.
Insane numbers, man.
So that's just to try again to put that in perspective. I know this is like a conversation. I feel like a broken record, but it's, since we're still having issues, it's still worth repeating. The scope and magnitude of this growth is just, it's beyond anyone's wildest dreams. It's frankly unbelievable to the point that you wouldn't be able to pitch this to someone because they wouldn't have believed it. And now that we're seeing it, people are believing. Like, does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, it's, if they had told me this kind of growth when I was interviewing, I probably would have been like, man, you guys are trying really hard to sell me on this. There's no way we're going to 10X in 3 months or what, like,
but that's like how every conversation goes. I know back when I was buying Array, my Mystic Axie, and this is funny because a lot of people don't even know. I didn't have the money to buy that outright. So I kind of saw the vision of where the game was going, Zyori, and I made it think, like, my thought processes was, I buy a Mystic Axie, I dive deep into the game, and this is my hedge, this is my bet, dude. I took out a loan to buy that Mystic, like, I completely against financial. I do not recommend that. I'm going to eventually make a video.
Financial advice.
Not financial advice. I took out a $16,000 loan to buy a Mystic, and my thought process was, not only will it appreciate in value, but I will put in enough work into this game to where I'll have enough passive income streams to pay off the cost of the Mystic every month, which is like $400. Now, since then, my Mystic now is probably estimated at close to like $85,000 or $90,000. And, I make enough money just from my passive income streams to where I don't even feel the loan. But it's like telling that to my parents and convincing them that, hey, this was a good idea and that this was going somewhere. They didn't believe me. No one believed me. And now they're the same ones that are like, you're leaving your job. Like, you actually get to the point to where you can do that. I'm like, you got to have faith and believing in this infrastructure if you really want to go deep. Now, I don't suggest anyone take out a loan, but it worked out. It worked.
Wow. I mean, you built the passive income stream so that it kind of makes sense. And I didn't have to take out a loan to buy my Mystic. And it was a little bit cheaper than market, but still, I've said on the last stream, I sold all my Bitcoin. I cashed in a couple other investments. I sold a few stocks. Yeah. Sorry, Nintendo, but you're now a Mystic Axie. You know, like,
oh my God.
I sold some things that I did not think I was going to sell. I had zero intention of parting ways with my Bitcoin, but the Mystic is already appreciated, and it seemed to make a lot of sense. My big problem now, though, is like, is there a number? Like, I asked this to Dave or someone else, like, are you ever going to sell this Mystic? Because I don't know if I will, because the value of it is partially driven now by the connection to it, right? There's only so many of these like Mystic Axies that basically are going to serve as the community grows, the ultra unique avatars, right? And I don't think I'm ever going to be able to afford buying a second Mystic. Like, maybe there's some world where I acquire one somehow, but I feel like Soraya here is going to be a key part of my Axie branding, my Axie identity, my online identity, like basically for the rest of my life. That's how much I feel attached to this thing. So if right now you said, I'll give you 100 ETH for your Mystic, fuck, man, I'd have to think really, really hard about it, because that sounds like a crazy amount. Like, yeah, man, you've made so much off that. That's way overvalued, but I think she's going to be worth more than that at some point.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean,
I've got custom art made around this thing. You know, like, I feel attached to it.
Yeah, I couldn't. I'm the same boat as you. I wouldn't take 100 ETH. My initial idea was, when I bought the Mystic, I wanted it to be my brand. Like, now I haven't announced this either, but soon I'm going to be releasing a merch line called Array Boost. And, on Twitter, my Mystic has become such a social celebrity at this point. I'm like, dude, this Mystic is a part of me. I don't need the money. I'm not hurting for the money. I'm not hurting to make 100 ETH, 200 ETH, but like growing out this insane Axie family and growing out the Array Boost and this whole kind of idea behind like what we built, that is more valuable to me than the short-term money. I care about experiences. Axie is an experience, and this is something I plan on being married to for the rest of my life. So I don't plan on selling ever. It'd have to be like $1 billion or something, like something so absurd to where I wouldn't be able to have to work or think of anything else in my entire life.
Yeah, where it's like you're selling this Mystic Axie to be able to like build out an Axie country or something. We're going to put this $1 billion to making our own country. That would be a good cause. That would maybe be worth it. I feel you on that. It's a weird thing to think about, because from a financial sort of like fundamental type perspective, I feel so emotional and illogical. But from like a community online identity perspective, it seems so rational, like this thing represents me online. And that's part of like, it's also weird to think about money. Like, okay, let's say I take that 100 ETH. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah, what do you do with it? You buy more Axie stuff?
And then what? So I just buy another Mystic that's cheaper and go, well, now I got a shittier Mystic and a bunch of money in my bank account. It's like, it's one of those, like, money's weird like that, where at the end of the day, if I had $1 million right now, the first thing I'd do is invest it and spend it on stuff that is like hopefully going to appreciate. Like, I'd probably buy a house. I'd probably buy some more Axies. I'd put a bunch of it in the stock market. I'd buy a bunch of more crypto. Like, I'd hold on to some cash, but ultimately, what does money in your bank account do? I'm not saying like spend all your money, but when you're talking about like 100 ETH worth of savings, I would just spend it. I would like, I want cool stuff. So it does seem a little silly to spend it unless you have a really clear, like, hey, I'm selling this for $10 million so that I can invest in this new business that, I'm going to buy a Marriott hotel that's going to make me $100 million or something like that,
Honestly, so the biggest reason why I can't sell it is just like yours. Like, I don't know what I would do with the money, but I do know that I want to buy another Mystic. I'm eyeing someone's Mystic in the community. I don't know if they'll sell it to me. I think they want it's a ridiculous number. It's like 100 plus ETH for it. And I am nowhere close to that.
Is it? That's not a double, is it?
No, it's a single, but it's a Sky Mavis. And if I can pull off this sale within the next couple of months is my goal. I don't know how I'm going to do it. No, I'm not taking out another loan. This is not financial advice. I promise this time around I'm not taking out a loan. But if I can gather the ETH I'm probably going to spend, if the numbers stay where they are, 75 to 100 ETH on a second single mystic.
That's wow. That's got to be a low number mystic there. I love the way mine looks, but the 2206, I'm jealous that you've got a 3-digit mystic. That's the real. Isn't it funny though how once you go down the rabbit hole, like, the collectors compare that kind of stuff to each other? Like if you, I don't know if you're in like the Axie Chat Founders Lounge or anything like that, but the collectorism really kicks in pretty quick. And even on my level, like it's small and stupid, but still, I mean, can you imagine? Wow.
I would feel like I lost meeting if I sold my mystic. I'd be like, wow, she's someone else's mystic. She's not a Rhea anymore. She's whatever they want her to be. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I guess if it was some sort of private sale and I like knew the person I was selling her to, maybe like if she quote unquote was going to a good home, maybe that could help push me over a little bit. But I'm talking about like 0% to like 1%. They're very small margins here.
So what is your next goal, Zyori, in terms of Axie? Like whether it's, are you trying to like acquire more land? Or are you just breeding now? Kind of give me some fill on what the Zyori plans are.
That's a good question. Outside of like the Sky Mavis side, I was kind of okay. So at first I was just focused on arena. I thought, okay, esports, all I'm going to care about is learning the arena, like commentator style. I just got to power farm this. And then breeding was so profitable, I thought, well, I'm an idiot for not breeding. And somebody that I onboarded into Axie from the crypto space was breeding more than me and making more money than me, so I caught FOMO. Yeah. Then I started doing all this breeding and got into aquas, realized that breeding is super fun, and wasn't sure what I was going to do with scholarships. Then, as I said before, came up with that idea to try to onboard other like broadcast talent and various other influencers and stuff, kind of like the VIP scholarship or whatever. So now, I've been busy enough with all of these esports proposals from that big Axie Esports grant announcement and some of our big plans for 2022 that honestly, man, over the last couple weeks, I haven't had a lot of time to think about the Zyori Axie empire. I think it's gotten expensive enough where I've done one breed in the last probably 2 weeks now. And I've kind of just been chilling. I've got 2 Arctic plots that have appreciated a lot. My next target there is I own like one that's like kind of catty corner. It's like diagonal to a node, and then one south of it. And then there's one touching the node that is owned by one of my bosses that I would very much like to buy at some point and very much cannot afford. And it is appreciating at a rate that is like bothering me because I think it's appreciating faster than I'm accumulating income or whatever else. So that is sort of my long-term target, go from a 2-state or 2-plot estate to a 3-plot estate. But the node touching Arctics are like, they're pretty tough. So I'm not sure if I can actually collect that. So in the short term, I need to do a little more breeding. But I've gotten cold feet. I did roll a 100% pure aqua. That's still a 0 breed, and I haven't quite decided
sell that.
What to do with that. You sell it?
I'm telling you to sell it because at the rate in which 100 breeds are actually producing other 100 breeds, you get so much more return on your investment for actually selling it. And this is like, just me after I've done a bunch of research and stuff that I don't actually put out in the open. But for the people that are in the chat and for you, every 100 breed that I'm breeding or that I get, I just sell it because the amount of return on investment between 100 and the others, it's like you're not getting that much more bang for your buck.
You think it'll appreciate even more though? Like that? You think that dynamic will spread wider? Because I'm worried that they're going to make getting pures even harder. Like I think genetic mutations might even increase. And I say that with zero insider knowledge. I have no idea. I'm not involved in game balance at all. Full disclosure, this is just speculation. But like I think breeding is just going to get harder over time, would be my general thought. So
I agree with you on that.
I don't know. I also I hate to, again, the emotional side, but I feel like he's a little bit of a collector's piece. Like that's my first 100 pure, bro. Like, I don't know.
If you got the sentimental attachment.
Well, I don't know. It's like he is a breeder, so at the same time, it's like that feels really silly to get attached to. Like I bought breeders to breed more breeders, and now I'm like, wow, look at this awesome thing I bred. I don't want to sell it or do anything with it. That seems a little counterintuitive to the strategy, but dude, I was pretty excited when I rolled that. I feel like I didn't deserve to roll that. That was like my 20th breed or something. That's pretty lucky. It was 297s. So
Yeah.
decently low chance, I think.
Yeah, dude. So like before they made the mutations, I was pumping out so many hop up plant tanks. Everything would come out 100% every single time. After your mutations, I haven't rolled 100% yet since the mutation switch.
Yeah, that is like definitely a piece of FOMO that I feel like I missed out on. I wish I had done some breeding when the 100% were possible, because
Yeah.
yeah, that was just I didn't. A lot of us, I think, didn't realize how like amazing that was and how likely that was going to be to change. You know, that was a little busted. It was a little too
Yeah.
easy once things got too pure. But yeah, so you ask a really good question that I honestly don't have a great answer to. I don't know what my immediate like Axie Zyori goals are just as a player. I am sort of waiting for this next season to start because I finally have enough variety in my plant to aqua lineups. Like I'm trying to go real specialist within that framework. So I've been breeding some really weird plant tanks. Like I got one plant tank with dual blades for like this crazy damage. I don't know if it's actually good. I got a plant tank with the snail shell on the back now that I want to try experimenting with. I finally got some cactus and stuff like that. For a long time, I was running just a healing, whatever it is, rosebud, I think, which is just okay. It's not bad, but I think cactus and stuff that lets you be a little more aggressive, based on everyone I've talked to in these coaching sessions, it just seems to give you better options. So I'm really excited for this next season to start. I think the highest rating I've been is like 1,600. So I would maybe, as a short-term goal when this next season starts, if I could push that a little higher, hit 17, maybe hit 18.
You got to push for
cool.
the top 100, top 100.
I would like to do that. And I used to think that was achievable until I did a coaching session with Elijah. And that really highlighted the gap of, damn, he's just, those players, man, they are really on another level. And like playing with Elijah, it made me feel bad because I think he was more invested in my just like random ladder matches during the off season than I was. Like there was one time, I don't know if you saw the highlight where like we lost because I just played 3 cards really fast thinking it was an auto win. He's like, no. And it's like, I felt like he felt it. He's like genuinely upset. Like, no. And at the end, he's like, well, we would have been undefeated if you just listened to me. And I'm sitting here like, I don't really care. We learned. It was fun. Like my brain is a little more geared towards the entertainment value. I'm like, it's a stream. If we're having fun and people are laughing, it's a great time. And the people that are 100, top 100, they're like true competitors. He has that true competitor mindset where it's all about winning. And I don't mean like any of this to sound critical. I hope it doesn't. I mean more just to draw the comparison of I'm not a true competitor. That's why I've been a commentator in esports for my whole career instead of a player. I'm not that great at playing games, but I'm really good at talking about games and talking about other people playing games. But when it comes to actually winning tournaments, I'm not going to lie, but I haven't won too many video game tournaments in my day. I've crowned many a winner, but I have not been crowned myself.
Yeah, those top guys, like, man, it's crazy. So when I first got in the game, I did, coaching sessions with Indez and Elijah, and same thing, kind of insane thought process behind it. And back when I was a part of CTG, myself, Dave versus Axie, and Elijah played in the last Axie Squad League tournament, and we beat a ton of pro teams and made it all the way up to second place. And it was my best placing ever. We lost to Indez's team in the finals. But what I learned in that tournament run from Elijah in terms of like what it takes to win in tournaments versus ladder matches is completely different. A lot of people that play ladder matches, they probably go into it thinking you need these, super absurd teams to place top 100, top 200, top 300, where you could, if you have the right, amount of work ethic, energy, you can play a plant double aqua or a plant beast bird and place top 200, top 100. Like you said, it just requires a ton of dedication, knowledge, and every single play that you make matters. And the beauty in Axie, there's so many cards that it's not like chess where there's an optimal move in every instance. You can figure out, okay, this is completely optimal, because there isn't a one size fits all approach. I could go into a match and I'm playing, my dual blade beast at the back, and I'm going up against a bird that has, backline capabilities. And I know my beast is slower than my mid laner. And I'm like, okay, I don't have to worry about that. But what if the beast that he's running in the mid decides to, 3-card combo off the front and kill my plant? Then how am I going to respond to that, knowing that I have a midline reptile and I can't kill the beast or the plant one turn? Like, there's so many different things that you have to think about. It's like, you truly have to go into it knowing that there are hundreds of thousands of different scenarios that can win or lose you games. And in the arena, the idea is to just be able to account for the most scenarios possible until you get to the top 15, top 20, where you're playing top guys. And then the more nuanced lineups show up where you look up and it's like, okay, I'm playing a guy who has a 1-of-1 beast or a bird that has parts that I had never seen before, because that's what happens when you get to those top levels. And it's Axie is amazing. I think esports is going to the moon, and I'm glad that you're steering the way on that.
Yeah, that's what I tell people often when they say, like, what are the best Axies to buy? And like, I often refer to Dota and go, that's like asking what's the best hero in Dota. There isn't one. Like, yeah, sure, in any given meta, there are some things that are better, but it's all about counters versus counters. And then there's that layer of reading the opponent, right? And I think the more arena I've played, that's one of the things that I enjoy about it, is that it has a little bit of this poker element where you have to kind of not exactly count cards, but you can see what potential draws your opponent has. So you have to consider all these different options. You're always working with like partial knowledge and then trying to make the highest expected value play with that knowledge. But part of that knowledge is like, okay, this guy has this, or this is his history. He usually skips turn 1. So I'm going to factor that into my expected value. Knowing that he usually skips, I'm going to do this thing that is suboptimal if he doesn't, but I know that he does, so it's optimal here. You know, you have all these moments where it's not just about what's the optimal thing to do against these Axies, what's the optimal thing to do against this player who will, you know, who's not afraid to skip 3 turns in a row, and maybe you can abuse that. It's interesting. It really does start to get deep with reading the other person and trying not to be predictable yourself so the other person can't read you. I don't know if you've ever played much poker, but you know, I'm far from a pro, but I've probably got a good 500,000 hours, something like that in.
Oh my God.
I've played a little bit. It's fun. I used to live in New Jersey, so I was in a state that had legal online poker when it was mostly illegal in the United States. So I certainly took advantage of that and played some. And it's a fun game. I think poker is a really great example of how you can make a game that has a lot of depth with relatively simple rules. Like, it's truly one of those easy to understand, almost impossible to master kind of games. And so that dynamic just always keeps me coming back, man.
Yeah, and a lot of, like, I know Elijah was a pro poker player at one point before this, but I played a little bit of poker. I live in Virginia, so we never could like play online too much. But me and my mom taught me from a young age, so definitely loved watching like the World Series of Poker. And you have like Daniel Negreanu, who's completely bluffing off of his ass, and he's just like, yeah, so you got Jack King, don't you? And the guy has Jack King and immediately folds because somehow he's able to like predict that. Like, it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think I said that weird. I meant to say 500 to 1,000 hours, like somewhere in there, not 500,000 hours. That's like my entire life. So
somebody said there's 57 years in human time of playing poker for 500.
So I've probably played like 600 hours of poker, something like that, give or take. You know, hard to remember a couple of those casino nights, but yeah, that's, and again, it's like poker. It's not about like, you know, big amounts of money. It's just about like developing this muscle of playing expected value. Like, I can feel it when I'm sitting at the poker table, when I'm playing poker to play numbers, and when I'm playing poker to gamble. You know, it's like, maybe I can hit the 5. Woo! You know, like, oh, that's a big call, but I'm feeling it. That's gambling. Yeah. But with poker, you can actually start to apply some math and try to calculate some expected value and go like, it's really tempting, but nope, plays to fold. And then when it pops out, you go, I could have gotten lucky there, but you know in your head, like, but we're playing value, we're not gambling today. I feel some of that parallel in the Axie arena as well, especially talking to Elijah, where like, I'm playing these double anemone lineups. In my head, I'm always like, oh, I got to go heal, right? He's like, well, why heal when you could just do damage and actually kill stuff? And I think there's a little bit of a difference there of, you can always, it takes more diligence of counting their cards and looking at all of their abilities and, you know, like keeping track of the enemy's energy. I think that's the sort of, okay, I'm playing to expected value. Elijah's able to make these really big brain decisions because he's tracking all that stuff. So he knows, all right, he's only got 2 energy. He's not going to be able to play 4 cards. That's not going to be able to kill this Axie. Hence, you can make all these plays. And what I would consider gambling in the Axie arena is the way I play at 7 p.m. at night while I'm watching TV, where I go, oh, look, there's a beast in the middle. It's got cottontail. I'm sure it's not very good. Yeah, and you just sort of just play some cards that feel good.
YOLO.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of just do the mindless, like, you're not just playing random cards, but you're certainly not thinking about how much energy they have or putting that level of thought into it. I don't know if you got like, sometimes I'm just at that point at the end of the day where it's like, all right, I've got my 10 hours in. I just want to kind of chill out and relax a little bit. I want to play Axie, but I'm not playing like at peak level. I don't know what that's called. Am I just embarrassing myself here, or do you only play Axie? I guess only play Arena when you're like in the zone.
Honestly, no, because so like I kind of run into the issue where I think I'm a pretty solid top amateur player, but I don't think I'm at the the levels of like pro ranks. But I am a pretty solid top am. But the thing with my streams is, dude, I try to just be so entertaining. Like I'll be playing actual games and rapping at the same time, like doing full-fledged freestyles. And I'm like, dude, I don't have time to make sure I can count every single card, but I do keep track of like energy count in my head and try to make the big brain plays. But it's more so for me about how can I entertain but still be like a top level AM player, more so than let me just kind of sit here and hyper focus and make sure that I'm also like pro level. And I've realized it's not my kind of style. So I take that. Okay, I'm cool with just being a very good player, but a great entertainer. But hats off to the guys who do it at that level, because it's nuts.
I feel you. I think what you just described is a lot closer to my general vibe. Like when I used to stream Dota a lot more, I would get recognized in game pretty regularly, especially once I started talking. People would recognize my voice, and often, like win or lose, the value of my stream was the social interaction of talking to my teammates, and I would always get caught up like interviewing them and kind of making fun of them and like, just trying to keep the mood really light, because Dota is one of these games where all things equal, your games are usually fairly negative. People aren't really that nice to each other. It's all about putting each other down instead of building each other up. So for me, it was really fun to go in and be hyper positive. And even when people screw up, like make some jokes and just try to, I don't know, give them like a really fun experience. And if we win, awesome. If we lose, well, that sucks. But I don't really go into the stream thinking I can't wait to be, positive, all this MMR at the end of the day. And I don't want to say I don't really care if we win, because I do care if we win. It's always more fun to win, especially in a game like Dota. But I don't care as much as a lot of the other people. I really mostly care that we just had a good time. And accept the fact that you're going to win and lose pretty close to 50-50. In a game like Dota, a 55% win rate is like, whoa, dude, you're like really good at that. A 5% margin? Damn, you have a big impact. So you're going to lose a lot, and you got to just be able to embrace it and still try to make those moments fun. I think that's when people really spiral into that toxic mentality, when they feel like they're wasting their time because they should be winning. And it's like you lose your first two games, and then you've got to climb back the deficit, and then you get even, and you just want to be like positive again. It's like people get way too warped in that, like the MMR number in those games like Dota, when it's like a really big time investment. That is one thing I love about Axie too, that I can play a match in 5 or 10 minutes, whereas
oh my god, yes,
Dota or League of Legends is like, I mean, that could be an hour commitment if it's like some kind of crazy stalemate game or whatever. And that's, the older I get, the less time I have to sit down and play 5 Dota games straight.
Yeah, it's such a huge time commitment, versus in the same time in 5 Dota games you've probably gotten 20, 30, 40 arena matches in that 5-hour period. So no, I definitely kind of get you on that. But no, it's like, it's kind of the same concept. Like how can I have fun, play the game at a very like somewhat high level, and the audience kind of enjoy the same amount of kind of flair and flavor. And of course, there's always going to be room for the top players to kind of rise to the occasion and make content about that. But being a very good player, and then also being able to just entertain and create entertaining content. Like, I don't think YouTube, in terms of where the entertainment value of Axie is gone yet, we haven't even got there, because, we haven't seen land play yet. And people are still trying to come up with new concepts in terms of how to make YouTube fun in terms of actual battling. Because right now we're in the cycle where if you're a top player or a top influencer, people are going to watch you. People are going to try to, learn from you, get better, et cetera, et cetera. But what happens when it gets to the point where, if you're just someone who creates entertaining Axie content, you're going to get noticed and recognized. And I think like that's like the next step. Right now, people are in the onboarding process. How do I play Axie? How do I get good? How do I like all of these how-to videos? And that's fine. This is where we are. But what's the next step? It's entertainment. It's content value. It's memes. It's, oh my goodness. Like, I don't know if you saw it. I watched like a jumbo hot dog Filipino video the other day, and like I threw the meme in one of my YouTube videos, and it was like the most hilarious thing ever. But like that's where the future of Axie is really going to find its value in terms of entertainment. It's, let's find new content, let's find ways to bridge the gap and push things forward and add a ton of memes and fun, because at the end of the day, we want to make this a game about fun, not just, oh, you make a lot of money playing it, but commercially speaking, it has to be fun. It has to have a value where users are like, I would play this even if there was no money. That's me. But who else is going to be willing to do that? We need to build that type of an audience as well.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think you're spot on about like the evolution of the content. You know, right now we just need to get people onboarded and help bank the bankless. But I think we'll start to see this feedback loop of the more tournaments we have, the more Sky Mavis is able to support that tournament infrastructure, the closer we get to some sort of big like Axie Pro League sort of circuit, the more we can build in these third-party integrations. You know, like we've seen in other games, especially like in the Dota 2 space, you have a major, it's run by some other organization, but you know, Sky Mavis supports it financially, you know, with marketing or infrastructure or whatever else. There's a lot of ways you could build an esports circuit that balances like the Riot model and the Dota model, where you have these really great first-party tournaments like an Axie World Finals that's run by Sky Mavis, but most of the circuit is run by you know, third parties or community members or people that want to step up and own these events. And with that, people, I think, will realize pretty quickly, well, how can we make our tournament stand out? Content. Well, more interesting content. For now, as you said, it's just like tournaments themselves are exciting. So just having a tournament is great. But once we have more of those, tournaments will want to stand out in different ways and differentiate. And I think content is like the number one way to do that. And you start building these relationships with different content creators. You start mixing in the memes, the comedy, the sketches, these different sorts of edits. I mean, the Axie art style has so much potential in terms of production suites with developing Lunacia into, you know, like this whole broadcast world to integrate commentators into. There's a really high ceiling on that stuff, and we're still pretty far away from realizing the peak of that. But, you know, we could do some pretty cool stuff with green screen technology. And I mean, how cool would it be to be broadcasting from the Axie universe, you know?
Dude, that'd be insane. I'll just you know, traverse Lunacia with Araya and have fun. I'm all down for that.
Augmented reality. I mean, we've seen that in Dota and League of Legends, you know, like the drafting where they'll have the augmented reality heroes like on the stage and stuff. Could totally do that kind of stuff in the Axie universe. So a lot of really cool options with production value, and I think enabling third parties and having some competition in the space, right? Like it's community first, but a little bit of competition is really healthy, and that will hopefully push our tournament organizers to, you know, continually pushing the envelope, you know, developing new stuff, innovating, and continually finding new ways to stand out amongst each other. That's sort of the the name of the game.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think like, and right now we're at a point where that, you know, competitive nature, it's there, but it hasn't really been cultivated. When are we going to see people become the bad guys? Like that's what eventually we need. We need to have dynamics. You know, everybody can't be always good and happy, and you know, and I don't mean it in terms of like the overall community outlook, but I mean, but like, when are we going to have that person come up that's like the 2010 Miami Heat, where everyone hates the Miami Heat because they're a super team? Or when are we going to have that person that comes up that's
the
like
Patriots?
No,
same kind of thing.
I'm not going to follow the rules. I'm going to do my own thing. Like let's see who decides to be risen from the ashes to create that type of Axie influence and content and just that other type of villain mentality.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's another thing that people underappreciate sometimes in the esports world, these storylines that need to be created and finding ways to tell those stories and make them interesting. And even for like broadcast talent, I mean, that's something that on my side, that's a question that's been posed. Like, okay, so we're going to do all these tournaments. Who's broadcasting all these tournaments? You know, like in the past, there's been so few. It's been a pretty simple 1-to-1. Like, hey, Chief is running a tournament. Chief is going to cast a tournament. But if there were like $1 million Axie tournament, is Chief playing or casting? I don't know. I think that's a genuine question. We don't have this like full-fledged group of people that are commentators yet, because there hasn't really been the infrastructure, the demand for it. But if this esports stuff goes the way that I want it to and the way I think it will, we're going to need some commentators within a couple of years or so, let's say, maybe even less than that. And I think
Zyori, hire me, Zyori, hire me, please.
Dude, I mean, that is like for real, something that I think a couple people have thought about. But what does Axie play-by-play look like? Chief has been championing that so far, but we're going to need more than just one or two commentators. I know Axe as well; he casts with Chief a lot, but we're going to need more commentators. And if there's going to be times probably where, not in this year because we'll have this specific tournament server, but we'll have multiple events on the same weekend. So yeah, you need multiple commentators to cover the different events. Other languages as well: Spanish, Portuguese, Tagalog. All this, the global coverage of these really big events is going to be a key piece of the infrastructure. So we have a lot of building to do on that side, and I think there's no shortage of avenues right now in terms of Axie content. I mean, once we have more tournament stuff, doing like replay review and that kind of analysis, like, if Indez is playing in the grand finals, going back and reviewing those replays and talking about the decision-making process after we've watched it live on air, that's amazing content. People would jump all over that kind of stuff. So anyway, I think there's a lot of overlap with esports and content and how those creators kind of intersect. Fundamentally, these events are like great real estate for marketing, and if you don't have sponsors, well, content creators are something else that we can market. You guys are making video content anyway. Well, commentators need to go on break for 15 minutes to eat. What should we do? Well, maybe rolling some original content from creators that are partnered with the event. Maybe you're not a commentator on Chief's event, but you're the fill guy. Maybe there's still a niche for ways to entertain in between games. There's a lot to explore there. So I'm hoping with this esports grant program, we'll see some of that exploration. Still have some time before that closes. I think we've got like 150 proposals, something like that. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I gotta have to boil that down to 10. Yeah, no,
you're gonna be busy.
Some hard decisions will have to be made, and unfortunately for this first little season, it's purely just like a resource limitation. Like we can't just open the floodgates. I'd love to accommodate every single tournament, and once we get things stable again, it's going to go back to that way where it's just normal challenges through the game client. If you want to run a tournament, you can run a tournament. This isn't some sort of forever solution. This is just, we're scaling right now. Things are a little tough, and I pushed for this so that we can have some tournaments. The compromise is that we can't do every tournament. We got to limit it to 10-ish, give or take. So,
and I had a question about that. In terms of like, and I know this is like something you guys haven't even figured out or don't want to announce yet. So if it is, feel free to push back. But in terms of the tournaments, how are players going to be able to get or vie for positions to even qualify for these tournaments? Is it solely based on the Axie Arena? Because at that point we look at it and we're like, okay, maybe it is a bit pay to win, because there are multiple metas that happen in a single season, and at that rate, if you don't have 4, 5, 6 different teams, like I know Indez, he's told me he has like 30 different teams, and he has 15 teams that he only uses for tournaments that you don't even see unless he's playing in a tournament. So how do you guys balance that back and forth of qualifying and allowing people who only have maybe 1 or 2 teams to have a chance, as well as people who have a wide array of access?
No, that's a great question, and multiple people have brought that up, and I think there's a number of ways that you can approach that, and I've gotten some proposals that have some solutions. So it's like a really basic model is you can limit it, just say, hey, you can use 9 Axies. You get 3 teams for this tournament, that's it. So everybody knows what your 3 are. I've heard other people talk about like a potential sort of drafting system where maybe each player has 12 Axies, and then you get to lock 1 each that can't be banned, and then you get to go back and forth and remove like 1 or 2 from each other's pool.
You're
something
blowing my
like
mind.
that. Yeah, and like I don't know what the number is. Like maybe it's 15 and you remove 2 or something like that. It needs to be tested and calibrated. And again, that's part of the idea of this esports grant period. Of I've gotten some proposals kind of haphazardly from people that have been interested in running events. And as we get closer to this sort of Axie circuit infrastructure in 2022, 2023, I just need more data of who's out there, who wants to run events for Axie, who is able to do it, who can walk the walk, not just talk the talk kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So this is a great data collection time for us where it's, we want to see some experimentation. The encouragement is like, hey, this is like, we're going to cover your prize pool. So, this is an okay time if you try something and the event runs well, but this idea just didn't work. Like I'm judging you by the logistics. We're going to work together on the ideas, but we want to see some experiments. We totally expect a couple to fail. That's totally okay. This isn't like, did these events make money sort of thing? You didn't get at least 200 viewers. It's not like that at all. The idea here is just to try to enable some people, collect interest. And, maybe there are some people out there that have been thinking about tournaments, but didn't know that I've been open to proposals. Now this gives them a very clear path to, hey, send me, if you got an idea, send me the proposal. I at least want to hear about it. We might not be able to accommodate it right now, but I want to hear about it so I can get it in the queue, get it in the log, and just model out like what the expectations are with the people that we have in the community already. Where their heads are at, and then how we can find that perfect intersection of enabling third parties, but also still doing really big, awesome, like first party Sky Mavis events. So
no, I think that's super.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think your head's in the right place though. Like this is exactly what we're trying to do right now is encourage everybody to like, hey, this is a little bit of a problem. How would you solve it? Let's see how it works. Fingers crossed.
Ideally, like my thought process is regardless, the top players, the Endezes, the Elijahs, they're going to rise to the top and do their thing. But it's like, think about the dark horses that are in the community. I think about, scholars in my own system. Like, I have a guy named Jecky who's insane and another guy named Wet Hands who, in the opportunity, we have tons of Axies where we could lend them within Loot Squad. We're fine. But think about the scholar managers and the people who only have, like you said, small amounts, how can we get them into this ecosystem and see the best? Like now, I'm a Gravelant sensei. When I won second place at the tournament with Elijah, I played the same lineup the entire tournament. And we ran into, the semifinals, a bit of a hassle where it's like, people have way more Axies than us. And there was some controversy there, but it's like, how, like, imagine someone banning my Graveland. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to play now. I have to think of a new way to kind of counteract my top prized Axie being banned and going with something else that might not be as ideal for me. Like this could be thrilling for a lot of people.
It completely shifts the way you approach tournaments and how you like, there's so much strategy and kind of deck building to trying to build your comp because you need to have these like within your 15 Axies, you need to have multiple teams that are different combinations of those Axies. So like different players will ban different ones because, so maybe you have 2 in there that have Gravel Ant and it's like, but then there becomes this meta of like, how many other options can I sacrifice to have like 3 Gravel Ant Axies so that I guarantee and maybe that lock is too broken because then it's like, okay, now we can't ban Gravel Ant from Brycent, right? It's too easy for him to just lock it. Like all these things need to be tested and calibrated, but there's definitely a solution there. And I do agree with you that there needs to be some sort of limit from like an esports perspective, or else it just gets a little too, AK has a lot of Axies.
And one more thing I wanted to propose to you, and I think this is something that, I don't know, maybe you guys can discuss internally, or if you like want to go deeper on it. I've been thinking about the true playability value of arena mode. And the beauty in arena is that, the top players again rise to the top, but you have to grind to get to the top. But one thing that I think would be super cool as one of the perks, okay, there's money involved, but imagine if the top 300 worked as a weighted voting system. So if Endez is first place, guess who gets the most weighted votes in the off season for nerfs and bans? It's going to be Endez, and then you slightly weight the votes down based on where people placed, but there is still like a balance. So like the top 300 players, everyone's getting some level of voting or infrastructure right to say, oh yeah, I was the top player. Even if it's just one vote, I got a vote to say, hey, I think that Gravelant should be nerfed, or that dual blade should, receive a slight buff, like kind of giving more stakeholder kind of utility back to the placements of actually getting the top 300. Because I mean, there's a ton of people who once they get in the top 300, they're like, number 9 or 10 or 18 or something. They'll just sit there and be fine because, I'm going to get good money. I'm getting my good placement.
Right.
But imagine now you're used to running a certain type of Axie and you figure out that, hey, if I place number 1 or 2, my slightly more weighted vote might count better than me placing 18th. So I'm going to work a little bit harder and make the craze even more insane for people trying to get those top spots. Yeah. And I know it's just a thought, but it's something that I was thinking
wild.
of and like,
well, so it does get interesting from like long term. This is something that non-Axie folks have asked me. Like, okay, so it's a DAO. So eventually this game will sort of be managed by the players, like the stakeholders of the ecosystem. Yeah. What happens if the players make bad decisions for the game? It's like, well, that's a risk of this live experiment. That is in theory possible, right? As we hand out more AXS and get closer to that period, like in theory, like the Axie Infinity community could say, yeah, we don't want Sky Mavis to be the developer anymore. We've outvoted you, and we're going to hire these developers instead to grow out this next expansion of the game. In theory, that could happen. And I think our angle is just like, well, that creates a really strong incentive for us to, deliver a good product and do a good job and, reinforce why you would want us to continue leading the development of the game. So, but when you talk about game balance, stuff like that, though, it does get really interesting of like just the centralization around that and the implications of everything has a financial investment attached to it. So let's say we do the Axie World Finals. Throughout that giant tournament, we've realized, hey, here's the established meta. Okay, these are the 3 things that are really broken. You watch that grand finals, and it's like, yep, somebody cracked the code. This combination is way too strong. We've got to nerf this thing. As soon as that nerf happens, any Axie with those abilities, it's instantly worth a little bit less, right? Yeah. So that's just a big complication, both like on the internal team, you have to make sure to remove biases there. And then like externally, if you have a sunk cost, we just have to be aware of that. How to say this? It's like every player is trying to min-max the system on an individual level, and that's what makes it fun. And what's best for any individual player at a given time might not be best for the ecosystem at large at any given time. And the ecosystem is big enough that it can handle that in small doses. But if every user just, it's like if every user just pulls their money out immediately, then the whole thing just goes bust, right?
No, I totally agree. I was just thinking from the sake of increasing even more craze and more kind of like ability behind placing, because I think about it in terms of, okay, you're a top 10 player.
It's an interesting solution long term, though. Like DAO days, like who? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like in the future, but that is really interesting to think about.
Because I think like, okay, let's say you have your top 10 Axie players. Okay, those people who place in the top 10, they are the ones who propose what the picks and bans will be. And then, just like their weighted vote and everyone else's, it goes down where, okay, you can vote from this set of lists. Now, it wouldn't be all 300 people creating their own picks and bans, but it's like, then you're rewarding people for saying, okay, I'm going to grind 10 hours tonight just to make sure I get spot number 10. So I can say, oh, I really like this bug card. I'm going to at least throw it in the pool. Like these are just, I think of so many ideas.
No, totally. But it's like hearing you say all this, it reaffirms one of these theories I've had recently that I've been sorting through is that where does all of this go with lane gameplay and stuff? Yeah. It leads to politics. All of this it gets increasingly political the deeper we go down this rabbit hole and the more significant governance becomes as part of the ecosystem. And what you're talking, like it basically, those whatever it is, the top 300, however you like rank it down and weight the votes, that's basically like the Axie balancing Congress, right? And then pretty much. Those Congress members are then trying to sort of leverage each other, and like eventually they would probably form these parties, these like little coalitions of, Indez is saying, hey, this thing's broken. He tries to rally people with him so that they vote alongside him. It basically just becomes political parties, right?
Oh, we're going down a crazy rabbit hole now. I didn't think of it like that.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, this is where my brain's been. So this is like my bias lens, but I've been thinking a lot about governance stuff, and I just think I'm curious if you disagree, but I just think politics are inevitable. It all started for me with that stupid tweet from Jiho that said, we need an Axie constitution. And it's just like, at some point we probably will. but there's going to be a lot of questions that have to do with land gameplay that we have to figure out like how to govern. So here's just one wild example. Advertising within land space.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty safe to say there will be something there, right? Like it makes sense that if you have a giant estate that's all along the road and you want to advertise something, and maybe it's like you're advertising your service in the game. You built a little mini game and you want to advertise that you can play Axie go-karts if they stop at your store, right? So that makes sense. Like a little bit of advertising is good. But do we want completely unchecked, like, yeah, anybody can advertise anything at any time, however they want? No, because then Axie Land just turns into a giant billboard, right? There's got to be some limits. There's probably certain things that we would say are like, you can't advertise pornography, right? That would probably be an obvious one. You can't you can't have hate speech, something like. We'd have to decide, though, as a community, like, what are these rules? What are we okay with? Like, what are the bounds to maintain integrity within our land? And right now, it's like kind of on Sky Mavis to set those rules. But again, as we distribute more AXS and get closer to full-on DAO territory, more decentralization, like these are questions that I think the community will have to find ways to self-govern and answer and enforce in meaningful ways. And I just don't see a world where that isn't political.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And it's like Sky Mavis is pretty much the caretaker. And maybe it's a thing where Sky Mavis has to be the caretaker until there is like a true system. But at that point, if it's staking and voting, like you said, you can't kind of get away from politics. But
and I don't know if it's a bad thing. It's more just an interesting thing to think about. Like, all right, how do we go about this? Like, okay, who writes the Constitution? How do we go about ratifying the Constitution? Who votes on what? Like, who's our George Washington? Like, who's
going to get to sign it? Like,
do we have like? Does it make sense to have some sort of community leader that like is our little prime minister or president or representative somehow? That there. All of these are like really big macroscopic questions that are hard to answer because we don't really know like the full parameters around land or how it's going to work exactly. But when you talk about like an SDK and this idea of digital ownership within a land environment where people are going to build applications in the game and monetize them, like advertising is just, even from an esports side, like advertising tournaments. I would love to see some sort of bulletin board system within land gameplay where I could blast out, hey, everyone in Lunasia, come to the landing and watch the grand finals of, the South American Championship today. That'd be really cool.
That would be sick.
Maybe land gameplay has an emergency broadcast system so that we can send bulletins out. Like there's the options are limitless, man. It's but all I know is that the more things we add, the more things we have to manage, and the more things we have to self-govern, the more, pure democracy sounds great until there's so much to manage that you almost need representatives because we've got other stuff we want to do with our time than just vote on policies, right?
You could be voting all day, like about every little thing. Like, okay, how many certain types of items should you be able to have on this type of property?
It gets wild. Like we are living in a live experiment right now, man.
Yeah. You just like you've completely blown my mind.
I can see the wheels turning.
How many things could we potentially vote on? Like imagine there's a vote coalition that comes up from all of the Arctic landowners who believe that if you're on a savanna property, you should only be able to have a certain amount of Arctic items on that savanna property, or else you should be, forced to have to buy an Arctic property. Like there's like, I mean, think about it as something as minuscule as that. These are homeowners association questions that people see on a regular basis where they're like, oh, you can't paint your fence white because it has to be like a tan color. Like, I don't know what it could be, but like there could be some crazy proposals brought up depending on who owns what amount of AXS and who wants what. And
and I don't know how much you've talked to other people in the land space, but it's way more intense than I realized, especially for people that own multiple pieces of land. Like there have already been situations where someone is trying to build a specific estate, let's say a 9-plot square, a 3x3, and they have 7 of 9. And the person that has those last 2 will refuse to sell to them just because they know it connects the plots that they need, and they just refuse to sell, kind of just to be a jerk. Like they'll say like some egregious number that's not in the realm of possibility. So the retaliation move is that person will then just extend their estate to buy all the plots around those two so that they can block them off from like the rest of the land and be like, okay, well, now I own everything around you and you have this little island here. And I think like some of those players that have the funds to be able to do that, like the thought process is, I don't know exactly what the parameters are here, but I think boxing in someone else's land is probably not going to be great for them. And I'm hoping that since they were a dick, I'm going to be able to be a bigger dick by like building around them. So whether or not those limitations will actually be there in land gameplay, I can't say. But the fact that people are mentally already having like land wars and there's nothing on the land yet, like we don't even know what we're fighting over and people are still fighting over it.
It's crazy.
Because someone in Twitch chat said like, well, you know, with politics that leads to conflict. And I think it's sort of like a chicken and the egg. Like sometimes politics is trying to solve conflict. And like, that's just an example of we're having conflicts like that already. And there's nothing to govern. There's nothing to discuss about like these nuances of what we can do with the land. So yeah, just wait until you have those, like you said, HOA. You know, my neighbor is, you know, growing all this stuff and I don't like it. What can I do to get my neighbor to, you know, fuck off? There's going to be a lot of that, I think, the noisy neighbor, so to speak. So,
it's something that we're just going to have to deal with one day. For me, I had one Arctic land plot. I recently just sold it because I was like, the number that, you know, was there, it was just kind of too juicy to pass up in the meantime. But, you know, as I think that eventually, you know, it's going to be a thing where we have to come back and have those types of discussions. And maybe it's a thing where there are representatives from Savannah, representatives from the Arctic, and these are people who are speaking on behalf of the landowners for certain kind of conversations and certain types of things that come up. But dude, this infrastructure could span so wide. Maybe it gets to the point where we have individual representatives for each neighborhood of plots based on what subsection you're in. And then that representative has to talk to the Savannah rep, and then that Savannah rep would then talk to the global council about what they want to propose. Like it could go so deep to where, like
100%, 100%. It really could. And like, what's nuts is right now that system sounds like really complicated and not necessary, but it might evolve to a point where a representative system like that straight up makes sense. You know, you cast your vote locally, and then it kind of goes to the state level, then it goes to the federal level, and then, you know, we have some sort of a prime minister or something. Dude, it really does get wild and interesting when you start thinking about it. And, you know, those are the rabbit holes where I kind of get lost and then come back to reality and go, okay, all right, that's still pretty far away, but not that far away. So just keep building, and we're going to get there. The little builder that could. That's how I see myself some days.
Yeah, and you know, for me, it's just like I think you should be able to do whatever you want on your land. Ideally, in terms of the guy who, you know, just doesn't want to sell out. I'm kind of like it's kind of unfortunate to the bigger guy, but it's also like this guy has his own autonomy. You can't force him to sell a thing. If he wants to have to cross all of your land and drop items or assets every time he wants to walk back to his own land, that is literally his choice, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop him.
And that's what makes it so. It's like what makes it frustrating is what makes it good, because if there was some way to just kick him out, then it would start to lose meaning. But the fact that they do have those property rights, and it's like, nope, I bought this and I own it, is part of what makes this experiment actually worth participating in, and why people are emotionally attached to it, why they actually care. You know, and again, these are like mostly anons on the internet arguing over text, emails, you know. So,
oh my goodness.
No, it's been fantastic, man. I'm so optimistic for the future. This week for me is mostly just digging through these esports proposals and starting to come up with a plan and an outline for that stuff. So I've got a busy week ahead of me. But we're coming up on 2 hours, man. So I don't want to take too much of your time here, but this has been so fantastic. I love it when I get to podcast with people where the time just flies by. You know, I looked down at the clock and went, "Oh my gosh, we're almost at 2 hours."
The same thing. I'm like, "Oh my God, it's 2 hours. This has been awesome." Now my boss is probably going to kill me over these last 2 weeks, but I'm like, I don't care because I'm going to be out of here in another week.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So what's next for you? I guess we talked about the NFT stuff a little bit. Is there like an immediate can you give me a leak here? Is there like a big Bryce announcement? It seems like you have no shortage of ideas and no shortage of stuff in the pipeline, so maybe I should just be patient.
Yeah, so I do have a couple of things coming up. So I'm currently, I recently signed with a media company that's going to be kind of my agency in terms of
Oh,
helping me
hi.
sort helping me source deals. They're pretty known in this space. And ideally, I have some stuff that I'm working towards, maybe a G Fuel collaboration, potentially getting Razor on board as a branding sponsor for myself, and some others. But on top of that, I am going to be releasing merch in August. I'm partnering with a company. That announcement will also come in August. So I do have some pretty insane announcements, and all of this is kind of gearing up to lead to that global American push of Americanizing Axie a bit, and getting more American orgs, more American faces involved with this game. And I want to be on the forefront of that. That's in a sense my manifest destiny. I know, like back in the day, it was go West, and for me, it's like, how do we get more American based people into this game? And that's what my true focus is on, and just building out content for myself. And I want to start collaborating with other smaller content creators too. So those are some things I'm thinking of, but I'm super excited for the future.
Awesome, dude. It makes me so happy to hear that you've got all these plans, and I can't wait to see them. You've been slaying it so far, so just keep it up. You've been bringing so much positive energy to the Axie space. We're lucky to have you, man. I hope to see that scholarship continue growing. Best of luck with Loot Squad. And wow, Mystic Scholars, thank you for the gifted
Mystic
sub.
Scholars,
And look at that. Brycent
in.
won one of them. There you go, dude. You're now officially a Zyori sub. Congratulations.
Oh my God, that's nuts.
That is actually pretty nuts.
Thank you so much, brother.
There you go. So no, it's been a pleasure, folks. Axie Tuesdays. We should be back next Tuesday. Eventually, we're going to go back to playing some arena, and I'd love to do these where it's sort of a podcast, but we also do some like challenges and actually get to play against each other. Since the challenge server has been down, we've morphed this into just like a talk show, but that's just rolling with the punches, keeping up with the times, doing what we can. So we'll cut the stream here. We'll get this on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you follow Bryce everywhere. You guys know where to find him by now on Twitter and Twitch, but he's out there in the metaverse. He's hard to miss these days. So all right, take care, and we'll see you next time.